As of the sole survivor's arrival in the post-war Commonwealth, Boston's chapter of the Railroad, a group particularly known to dedicate their lives to rescuing or giving runaway Sints a new chance at freedom, or rather a new life, have been stretched thin due to increased and numerous offensives from the Institute. And these offensives include infiltrating and successfully eliminating secret safe houses of theirs. These safe houses provided shelter and temporary safety to any Sints that were smuggled out of the Institute by a particular teenage boy operating out of the Institute itself. I might delve into this in a future video, but not for now. And also ensuring that any railroad runner/operatives escort them to safety. And as I mentioned before, safety usually comes in the package of a highly secret establishment, or rather a safe house. Each and every safe house must have a head operative, someone that resembles a director, a person who would oversee each and every operation that is linked to the safe house. So with that explanation out of the way, today I'm tackling the literal core of the railroad, in the Commonwealth, that is. And that is their current HQ, their current headquarters. And by tackling, I mean I'll be closely analyzing just how safe their current headquarters are. Anyone who's ever played as a railroad heavy or operative knows that they heavily rely on secrecy and discretion. Everything they do is backed up by at least 3 more precautionary measures, and this includes dead drops, rail signs, back entrances, the Freedom Trail, secret code sentences, and employees with similar interests that can be trusted. I'm talking about Old Man Stockton, of course. And this surely means that their headquarters should be secured and hidden from the public eye, right? Heading into the absurdly FPS-hungry downtown of Boston, we can choose to walk the Freedom Trail. And this trail and journey is hinted at by random Diamond City guards or other passive civilians. The Freedom Trail leads you to an old abandoned church, the Old North Church of Boston. Like many other structures in the Commonwealth, the empty carcass of this building would make for a fine raider or super mutant hideout. I mean, it could even pass for a base of theirs. But upon entering, it is completely littered with dead and hibernating ghouls. The main atrium consists of church benches and the usual pre-war decorations a church would usually consist of. There's nothing in this main hall except the lifeless skeletons of hopeful folk. I mean, of once hopeful folk, I guess. Upon entering the main hall, another doorway to the right appears wide open, and this leads to the catacombs of the church that are located below. Surprisingly, this tomb of death isn't complex at all, unlike some movies and novels that perceive them to be that way. After approximately 3 ghouls and a turnable Freedom Trail wheel with a combination on it, the player encounters a group that resembles a homeless boy band. And after this obvious circle jerk dies down, it becomes blatantly obvious that there's more to this church than we initially thought. A hidden corridor of the catacombs that was locked behind a riddle, and this is where the railroad has decided to settle after the incident over at their previous headquarters, the switchboard. So there's nothing much to tell about this secret crypt, or rather the resting place of former Bostonians from the Revolutionary War. The railroad has swiftly turned it into their base of operations by placing various work benches and crucial terminals for Tinker, Tom, and Pam. So from the looks of it, this crypt might be the railroad's last failsafe of discretion. And this all comes to light once we personally take a look at their previous base, the switchboard, a vastly complex institution with more nooks and crannies than Nuka World. Loss of the switchboard proved fatal to the railroad's morale as a whole. But let's take a look into what they're currently investing their already broken morale into. Their current makeshift base of operations only has one escape exit, a broken hole in the wall that leads to the damp and wet basement of another building adjacent to the Old North Church. Upon entering, we're greeted by a small pond that is probably the result of pipes leaking, and after passing this section and undoubtedly getting your feet wet, we end up in the basement of a previously mentioned building. This leads to a staircase which is fully enclosed except for above, making it inaccessible from the outside. Now, the railroad automatically rivals with every single group or organization that effectively or even slightly hinders their goals in safely giving Gen 3 synths a new chance at life. And this includes the Brotherhood of Steel and, most importantly, their sworn archenemy, the Institute. In case of another heavy offensive from the Institute, we'll have to keep in mind what type of transportation they will be using to get to the base. And everyone knows that the Institute has swift abilities of teleporting anywhere, which renders the other methods of discreetly covering up all of the entrances futile. That is, if the Institute even learns about the whereabouts of the base. So if an Institute mercenary or contractor were to stumble upon the building on its own, without knowing what's beneath, they surely wouldn't even take an interest in cracking what's beyond that cold stone wall in the basement of the church. A full-on war with the Brotherhood of Steel would be another thing. The Brotherhood of Steel is years away from even grasping the concept of teleportation, so all of these precautionary methods of discretion at the current Railroad HQ would most definitely halt an assault significantly, and it would give a couple of railroad runners a 10 to 15 minute time window, whilst the heavies and operatives hold a steady defensive, if even, I guess. Let's reassure ourselves of this though. The Brotherhood of Steel has a wide variety of highly intelligent scribes that scour old pre-war buildings. Head scribes have even hinted at finding a lead to the whereabouts of the current Institute, which is still an achievement, considering how the railroad never even knew where to start, I guess. So in the case of an investigation into the railroad and their operations, Brotherhood scribes would be deployed all over downtown Boston to find traces of the railroad, and I don't doubt that in a matter of weeks they would be on a pretty hot trail. I mean, for God's sake, the player learns about the Freedom Trail and the railroad actually existing from a couple of Diamond City guards. Surely the most organized military force the post-war United States of America has seen can find a couple of wounded boys in hiding. One particular quest from the main quest line includes an attack from the Brotherhood of Steel, where knights and paladins managed to surround both of the entrances, including the secret exit, and this allowed them to fiercely break through the main corridor of the base without even giving runners a chance to escape. I mean, even the heavies were caught off guard. The front entrance of the church was cleared by another squadron, and they quickly made it to the catacombs to await any remaining railroad stragglers or escapees. Trapped, enclosed, cornered, ambushed, all of these words strongly get the point across. As this quest progresses, the sole survivor manages to wipe out the remaining forces of Brotherhood soldiers, but putting aside the literal god that changes plot lines in an instant, this would have been an easy victory for the BOS. They would have swept through this group of homeless street musicians with total ease. What made it an even more formidable assault was the fact that they managed to cover both entrances/exits out of the building, and this ensured that they would get every single operative that was crucial to the railroad's goal in the Commonwealth. As soon as that first squadron broke through the secret exit, they already had a wide view of the whole base. Heavies had nowhere to go, and they had no tactical advantages to abuse, and this is usually how railroad heavies tackle combat above ground, which means they were left utterly defenseless. Let's not forget Pam though. She possibly could have predicted any incoming invasions, but putting your faction's security in a pre-war fortune machine isn't really a guaranteed bet. So, to answer my previous question and the title of this video, no. The current Railroad HQ is not a safe environment for the railroad and its operations. But why would such a sophisticated faction allow themselves this level of liability is beyond me. The most probable conclusion has to be that these church catacombs were once a smaller safe house in their current chain of safe houses across the Commonwealth, and it probably was the safe house with the least recognition amongst members and higher ranking officials that could potentially be sleeper agents for the Institute. And as expected, this place was their last failsafe if anything fatal were to ever happen, and it definitely did. Even though the switchboard was lost, they managed to evacuate a lot of important assets and synths alike, including mostly all of the railroad heavies. And this is largely due to the hidden elevator located in a donut shop above the switchboard. Lovely, right? I hope that satisfied your curiosity. I was thinking of making this a permanent series on my channel, and by this, I mean analyzing the structural integrity and security of railroad safe houses and faction bases throughout the various Fallout games. Have a good one.